ගම් මැද්ද රට නගන ජන පෞර
TV1 රැස්විහිදෙන ජීවිතේ
Good evening and welcome to Primetime News on TV1. This is Newsfirst, where the people come first. For the Newsfirst team, I am Shehan Ratunga. Let's first take a look at your headlines.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
Carpenters take to the street, closes down the Gaul Road and surrounds the residence of the mayor. Public protest against the Carlton New Year celebrations and the No Relia Vasantaya. Scores of lawyers come to the aid of protesters arrested during last night's protest. Bar Association of Sri Lanka takes legal action seeking an order on the current economic crisis. Who obstructed the protest? Staged by mothers.
Newsfirst headlines. Main sponsor.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
Newsfirst correspondents reported that stones were hurled at the residence of the Moratua Mayor Samanlal Fernando by protesters. Now, police were called in to control the situation with regard to the protests in Moratua.
Right now I'm here in Moratua where a group of protesters have been hurling stones at the Moratua Mayor Samanlal Fernando's residence. Now we can see that these protesters have been here since 10 a.m. this morning, obstructing the Gaul Road from entirely, not letting vehicles move towards Gaul or Colombo. Now some of these protesters to obstruct him from outside and requesting and demanding the officials to make sure that these long hours of car parks come to an end. So stay tuned to Newsfirst as we bring you the latest in this regard. For the Newsfirst team, I'm Ahmed Buso reporting to you from Moratua.
The group commenced the protest by blocking the Moratua cross junction in Gaul Road at about 10:45 this morning. The protesters pointed out the harsh living conditions they have due to the shortage of essential items including electricity, gas and fuel. Police and riot squads arrived at the location soon afterwards. The protesters took steps to send back the vehicles travelling along the Gaul Road and allowed only school transport services and ambulances to move through. Former State Minister Jayantha Samaravira, who arrived at the site of the demonstration, was met with heavy opposition.
ඉන්න පුරපති ඌ හැංගිලා මෙතනට ආවිලා උත්තර දෙන්න කියන අපිට වැඩ කරගන්න. අපිට ඕන කරන්ට් එක දිහා වැඩ කරගන්න. දේශපාලනේ ඕනේ. වඩුවට සාධාරණයක් කරන්න. අපේ ඉල්ලීම එච්චරයි.
A team of protesters engaged in a discussion at the divisional secretariat at about 3 p.m. which was carried out with the intervention of the police. According to our correspondent, authorities have informed the group that electricity will be provided to workstations in Moratuwa from Monday on a priority basis.
Meanwhile, the opening ceremony of the Nuwara Vasanta Sanakeliya, organized by the Nuwara mayor, was met with strong opposition by the area residents as well. The event was held at the Gregory Lake Gardens. The people pointed out that such ceremonies are unnecessary when the people are living in harsh conditions amidst the current economic crisis. Vehicular movement along the Nuwara Badulla main road was disrupted due to the protest. The protesters who marched towards the Gregory Vaver urged that New Year ceremonies not be held. Central Province Governor Lalit Yugamage and State Minister Jeevan Thondaman, who were scheduled to attend as chief guests of the event, were not present at the occasion. The authorities had to cancel the event due to the strong opposition from the people. Meanwhile, a group of fishermen engaged in a protest in Galle today. The fishermen who protested at the Galle bus stand pointed out that the disruption of the supply of electricity and the shortage of fuel has made their occupation extremely difficult. Our correspondent said heavy traffic congestion was seen on the road opposite the Galle bus stand.
දෙසිය තිහට දෙවිච්ච අයිස් හොන්ඩරයක් රුපියල් 500 දක්වා වැඩි වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඩීසල්නේ, ගෑස්නේ, බඩු ගන්න ගියාම වතුර බෝතලයක්වත් නැති තත්ත්වයක් අද උදා වෙලා තියෙනවා. ඒ නිසා අපි කියන්නේ දීවරයන්ට සහන දෙන්න.
According to our correspondent, the group engaged in a discussion with the police who arrived at the location earlier. The group dispersed after assurance was given to hold a meeting between the protesters and the relevant authorities regarding the price of ice.
A protest was held near Nelumpokuna this evening.
People of Nochiagama who closed down shops staged a protest demanding solutions to the prevailing economic crisis. The protesters staged a protest march through the Anuradhapura Puttala main road and arrived at the Nochiagama main bus stand.
Businessmen don't have electricity to run their operations. Electricity is available from 3 a.m. to 6 a.m. Prices of goods have skyrocketed. A litre of petrol is not available in the city. A bottle of kerosene is not available. Coconut, fuel, sugar, rice and dal is not given to us at concessionary rates.
A group of lawyers engaged in a protest opposite the Mathura main bus stand. The protesters demanded solutions to the issues faced by the people and urged the government to reduce the suppression of the people.
As lawyers who admire and respect the rule of law, fairness and democracy, we will support the people in their struggle. If not, we will be evading their effort.
A group of people staged another silent vigil in Kohuala this evening.
බලන් ඉන්න බැරිම තැන. අපි අතන සාමාන්‍ය අහිංසක මිනිස්සු අන්තවාදීම තායුත අතට අරගෙනවත් අරගල කරන්න හදන අය නෙමෙයි. ඉතින් අපි කියන්නේ මේ ආර්ථික අර්බුදයට නිසි විසඳුමක් දීලා, නිසි ආර්ථික ප්‍රතිපත්ති සකස් කරලා මේ රටේ මේ තියෙන ප්‍රශ්න වලට උත්තර දෙන්න බලන්න. නැතුව බොරුවට වෙනදා කියන දේවල්ම කියන්නේ නැතුව.
This evening.
If you see one crow, you attack one crow.
What happened yesterday was unfortunate, and I really hope that people will learn a lesson from the people gathered here today, that violence is not the answer. There are better ways to send your message. So please don't resort to violence, but send a strong message and don't stop your protest. Hold your lawmakers accountable.
Power cuts in certain areas will mean that many Newsfirst viewers could miss the primetime English bulletin on TV1 at 9 p.m. We have decided to repeat our news bulletin at 12 midnight and at 6:30 a.m. the following day on TV1 to help you stay updated. You can catch all our news bulletins online on the Newsfirst Facebook page and YouTube channel. Newsfirst, where the people come first.
First with the people.
We must now cross over for a short commercial break, but do stay tuned.
Valuable Finance, best finance company.
Welcome back to News First. Now, 53 suspects who were arrested in connection to the public protest held in Mirihana, Nugegoda last night were produced before the Nugegoda Magistrates Court this evening.
The arrested individuals were held at the Mirihana police last night. A large number of lawyers, civil and political activists had arrived to the Mirihana police this morning in support of the arrested protesters. The lawyers who arrived at the police station pointed out that there are attempts to prosecute the protesters under the Prevention of Terrorism Act. The Human Rights Commission of Sri Lanka, however, said that the protesters cannot be produced before a court under the PTA.
A majority in that group was seriously attacked. The PTA has no relevance here. With regards to the public property destruction, this group is not involved in it at all. A different group that they are not aware of had arrived early morning. These people have never intervened to destroy the properties. Therefore, as lawyers, we strictly oppose the move to use the PTA and Public Property Act to curb the opposition by the people. We will take the biggest possible action regarding the fundamental rights of these people.
Before the group was produced before a court, several protesters who were injured were admitted to the Kalubovila Teaching Hospital to receive treatment from the judicial medical officer. The remaining suspects were produced before the Nugegoda Magistrates Court. More than 300 lawyers volunteering to represent the group appeared before court. Opposition leader Sajit Premadasa said steps have been taken to provide legal support from the Samagi Jana Balavega with around 600 lawyers.
A silent protest is currently underway opposite the Nugegoda Magistrates Court. Our report on location said that over 250 lawyers are in the court premises waiting for the decision of the court. Our Newsfirst Ahmed Bouzo joins us once again from Nugegoda.
What these protesters are requesting is that they demand that the 54 arrested individuals from yesterday's protest in Mirihana be acquitted and released as soon as possible. So these protesters here are holding a silent protest, carrying candles, and are requesting that those protesters who were arrested be released as soon as possible.
Meanwhile, 37 people who took part in yesterday's protest were admitted to the Colombo National Hospital. According to the police, 24 police officers and STF officers have been injured at the protest. 2 police and army buses, a jeep, a 3-wheeler and 2 motorbikes were damaged last night. Meanwhile, a video of civilians being assaulted during the protest was circulating on social media today.
News First with the people.
Now, the senior police spokesperson speaking at a media briefing said that the suspects arrested during the protest yesterday will not be prosecuted under the Prevention of Terrorism Act. He said that they will be produced in court under provisions of the Penal Code and the Public Property Act.
From 6 in the evening until about 10 to 10:30 in the night, the police did not interfere with the peaceful protest and their freedom of expression. But afterwards, the police had to use force, and the reason for that was that certain violent individuals had transformed that peaceful protest into an unlawful gathering. 3 police buses were damaged during the incident. 1 bus was set ablaze and destroyed. A bus belonging to the Sri Lanka Army was completely destroyed. Also, a 3-wheeler belonging to the police and 2 police motorbikes were set ablaze and destroyed. The Scorpio Jeep used by the Mirihana police inspector was damaged. 2 buses belonging to the police special task force and a water cannon were damaged. In addition, another private property was also damaged. However, according to the reports that we have received, close to approximately 39 million rupees worth of property was destroyed during last night's incident.
මිලියන 39කට ආසන්න ප්‍රමාණයක් වන බවටයි වාර්තා වෙලා තියෙන්නේ සාමාන්‍ය දල ඇස්තමේන්තුව අනුව.
There is a contradiction between the statements that you are making about the incidents that occurred yesterday and the statements made by the President's media division. You said that a separate violent group came to the location and carried out the attack. If that is the case, what is the state of our national security? What did the intelligence units do? The President's media division says that this was carried out by extremists. Did you know that extremists will be attending the protest?
මේ විමර්ශන මම කිව්වා කණ්ඩායම් 3ක් සිදු කරනවා.
I told you that the investigations into the incident are being carried out by 3 police teams, the Colombo Crimes Division, the Criminal Investigations Department and the Western Province North Crimes Division. They are conducting a full investigation. We will only be able to reveal all the details of this incident after the conclusion of the investigation. Investigations are currently underway. I haven't seen the statement that you referred to. I cannot comment on this statement without examining it first.
නිවේදනයේ දැක්කේ නැහැ. මට ඒක දකින්නේ නැතුව මට ඒ ගැන යමක් ප්‍රකාශ කරන්න බෑ.
Meanwhile, Journalists Association point out that 5 journalists who went to report on the protests last night were attacked. Nishanka Verapitiya, Sumedha Sanjeeva, Pradeep Vikramasinghe, Avanka Kumara, Chatura Deshan, Nisal Baduge and Varuna Vanyarachi were among the journalists who were attacked. Journalist Sumedha Sanjeeva, who sustained injuries in the attack, was held at the Mirihana police station until this afternoon. The journalist was later admitted to the Karapidi Reaching Hospital, while the rest of the protesters were taken to the court complex.
I work at a website. When they said that our journalist is been attacked, I was the person who went on a bike to get him. I didn't attend the protests. I was there until 4 in the morning. No one here told me where my husband was. I was walking from one end of the street to another. When I was walking along the road, they were attacking people on the road. They were from the STF. They shouted at me in filth. I heard that they were attacking my husband over the phone. When I spoke to the people attacking him, they told me that they are from the police and asked me why I sent my husband to protest against the president.
නමුත්තුමා දැන් මාධ්‍යවන කටයුතු මාධ්‍යවේදීන් කීපදෙනෙකුට පහර දීලා තියෙනවා. එතනදී ඔව් මාධ්‍ය පව දැනගෙන තමයි මේ පහර දෙන්නේ. මාධ්‍යවේදියෙක් මම හිතන්නේ අත්අඩංගුවට අරන් තියෙනවා.
I believe that one journalist was arrested. They say that there is video footage to prove that this journalist hurled stones. The journalist was also among the group of protesters. That may have been the reason why they were also attacked. But they say that there is video footage to prove that the journalist who was arrested had hurled stones. Despite the comments made by the Minister of Public Security, these were views expressed by the senior police media spokesperson when journalists raised questions regarding the assault on journalists.
My assistant Prasanna, who came with me in my car, was attacked by the police in front of my eyes. With the help of an SSP, I did what was possible to stop it. There were certain groups, as you mentioned, who arrived later. No one attacked them, since they carried out attacks using rocks. Another journalist and I, called Ifan, were inside a supermarket at the junction. We were 10 feet away from the road. Then a group of police officers came and started attacking us. Ifan showed his journalist ID card. The police continued attacking, saying that all of us are the same. Moreover, the police destroyed all the motorbikes parked on the streets. I saw it with my own eyes. It was the police who damaged the bikes. There were 4 to 5 bikes at the Jubilee Post junction. They destroyed all of it. Are you aware of it?
දැන් පොලිසිය
A subject called riot suppression is taught to police all over the world. If such intentional behavior, as you mentioned, took place, we will look into it. When it comes to public disorder management in every country, such principles are used. At a time when there are hundreds of people, when protest wield shields and batons, they find it difficult to separate people. However, the police officers have been given clear directives not to attack journalists if they are identified in any way.
බව අනාවරණය වුණොත් මාධ්‍ය කැමරාවක් ඕන් සතුව තියෙනවා නම් එවැනි අවස්ථාවකදී අපි පොලිසියට ඉතාම පැහැදිලිව උපදෙස් ලබා දීලා තියෙනවා.
We are extremely saddened by the fact that journalists were attacked. According to the information I received, they were attacked even after they had produced their media IDs. These issues cannot be solved by attacking journalists. You cannot also resort to blaming the media and solve these issues. Media is just one part of this. So if someone is trying to blame the media for what happened yesterday, that is unwise. Once the government loses power, these people won't be able to live here. I am not talking about those people in the United States, but the ones who are here. They will have to live in this country. I believe that they should take note of that. The government is drafting plans to use these incidents to strike a deadly blow to the free media of the country. The government has no right to deprive the people of their right to information. There are 4 pillars that strengthen democracy in the country: the legislature, the executive, the judiciary, and do not forget that free media too is an important pillar. We make a request from the government to understand the plight of the people and provide solutions to them. Think about the future of the children of our country. If you cannot solve these issues, please resign. Give an opportunity to a government that can work. Do not think for a minute that you can silence the people of this country using the Prevention of Terrorism Act. We will not allow that to happen.
The
Janata Vimukti Peramuna says that the government's efforts to destroy free media must be defeated. The political bureau of the JVP said that following the protest in Mirihana yesterday, the government is attempting to intimidate and suppress the people from one hand and also attack journalists on the other and silence the free media. The JVP stressed that this is a serious blow to democracy and the people's right to information. Now, the political bureau of the JVP demanded that the government immediately release the journalists who were arrested and also for the government to keep their hands off the free media.
Within 2 hours after the incident, the President's media division has identified the ones behind the protests as extremists. We are happy about the fact that they were able to identify an extremist group. This statement says the group had batons, axes and other weapons. If you refer to the CCTV footage and other footage, you can see that these peaceful protesters did not carry such weapons. What weapons is the President's media division speaking of? These protesters were chanting mental. Are they calling them extremists because they chanted mental? This statement says the protesters operated under the theme of creating an Arab Spring in Sri Lanka. What kind of an extremist group are these protesters? We are suspicious as to whether it is those who support the Rajapaksas that are attempting to bring down the public movement on the 3rd that is being developed against them. The question is, who is the mastermind behind the destruction of that bus?
අර බස් එක ගිනි තියපු පුද්ගලයාද ඒකත් එක්ක ආපු කණ්ඩායමද ඒක පිටිපස්සේ ඉන්නේ කවුද මහමොලකාරයා ඒකයි තියෙන ප්‍රශ්නේ.
The President's Media Division, in a statement issued today, said that an organized group of extremists were among those who were protesting at the Jubilee Post, Nugegoda. The statement noted that the group acted in an unruly manner and noted that this group, armed with iron clubs, machetes and sticks, had provoked the protesters and marched towards the President's house in Pangirivatta, Mirihana. The President's Media Division noted that most of those who acted in a violent manner were arrested and it was identified that a majority of them were an organized group of extremists. They have spearheaded the campaign called an Arab Spring in Sri Lanka. The President's Media Division also said that those who were arrested revealed that this unruly situation was created with the intention of enraging the public via planned anonymous social media gatherings.
Ministers who attended the media briefing held at the President's Media Centre today were questioned about the statement released by the President's Media Division. When we say extremist, you don't think that it is some sort of religious extremist. Extremists could be people from the JVP, the Samagi Jana Balavegya, or any other political party who made this crowd go violent. We were speaking about them.
violent කරන තත්ත්වයට මේක පත් කරේ. ඒ අය ගැන තමයි අපි කිව්වේ.
මොන විදිය පරීක්ෂණ කරලාද එතන ඉන්වෙස්ටිගේෂන් කරලාද මේ වගේ නිවේදනයක් මේ නිකුත් කරලා තියෙන්නේ?
අපි ගාව තොරතුරු තියෙනවා.
We have information about certain secretaries of MPs of certain parties and members of national lists of these parties and how they acted there. So this statement would have been based on that information.
ආකාරයෙන් සටහන් කරේ නැත්තේ කියලා මම කියන්නේ.
Are you trying to justify this incident? When these protesters attack the army will not just stand by. The police will not just stand by.
පොලිසිය නිකන් ඉන්නේ නැහැ. අන්තවාදී කියන්නේ දැන් තමන්ට මිනිමරලා හරි මේ පක්ෂයේ ආණ්ඩුවක් ගන්න ඕනි කියලා හිතන ඒ වගේ කණ්ඩායමක් කියන එකයි මම උත්සාහ කරන්නේ.
මේ වගේම මම හිතන්නේ ශ්‍රී ලංකා පොලිසියට පෙරමුණේ උද්ඝෝෂණයක් තිබ්බා අපතර වරලවා දෙන්න. ඒකට මේ වගේම කෞන්සිල් එකවල හානිසිද්ධ කරා. ඒ වල අන්තවාදී ගාටින්
There can be political extremists in all parties. We are trying to say that there is something like that here too. A group who was with us would have done that. That is why our people went to jail.
ත්‍රස්තවාදී වැළැක්වීමේ පනත යටතේ වුණත් අත්අඩංගුවට ගන්න පුළුවන් මොකද මේ ත්‍රස්තවාදී ක්‍රියා.
I think they had used the wrong word. They wouldn't have, I think extremist is wrong. They should have called it terrorist because only terrorist will set fire to will act like this. So I think the correct word would have been terrorist.
Terrorists who you claim to have eradicated from Sri Lanka.
Yeah, I think it will have to be done again. I think there are more terrorists around.
දැන් රජයේ මතය මොකක්ද? ඔබතුමාගේ පෞද්ගලික මතය
රජයේ මතය ත්‍රස්තවාදයේ තියෙනවා නම් වැළැක්විය යුතුයි. නෑ ඉතින් තියෙනවා නම් බලන්න. ලොකු වෙනසක් තියෙනවා.
මිනිස්ටර්
නෑ අපි ඊටකොට
අසම්පි වසන්තය කියලා.
Arab Spring is an incident. Since it happened in the Arab nations, it is called Arab Spring. If that incident is being compared to an incident somewhere else, we are not specifying a person or a race of people. The statement released by the President's Media Division was alluding to this incident based on certain interpretations. There was an incident like this and we have interpreted it as such.
අපි ඒකට අර්ථකථනයක් දෙනවා.
ඒ කියන්නේ අන්තවාදයක් නෙවෙයි නම් දැන් මෙතන ඔබතුමාලා කියන විදිහට තියෙන එහෙනම් ඔය මේ මාධ්‍ය නිවේදනයේ නිවැරදි කරන්න මොකද සමාජයට වැරදි අර්ථකථනයක් මේකෙන් යන්නේ.
නෑ මේ මාධ්‍යමයක එහෙම කියලා නෑ කොහෙවත්.
ඔතන තියෙනවා. කියවන්නකෝ.
කොහෙද පොඩ්ඩක් මිනිස්සුන්ගේ ගානේ පැවති පොඩ්ඩක් ඉන්නකෝ සද්ද නැතුව එමු චුල්ලිකන් ප්‍රචණ්ඩකාරීත්වය ඇසෙන බව අන්තවාදී පිරිසක්. ඔව් අන්තවාදී පිරිසක් හරි. අන්තවාදී කිව්වම දැන් අපිනේ හිතන්නේ නේ මේ කට්ටිය අහවල් ආගමට සම්බන්ධ මේ ආගමට
You don't have to throw stones to ask for gas. You don't have to break walls to ask for gas. You don't have to set vehicles ablaze. That will have to be called extremism. Please tell me that when a group of people attack your home, should you say that a group of innocent and clean people came and removed the bricks of my house and left? What are you saying?
ඊයේ සිද්ධියම කිව්වා මේක ටෙරරිසම්.
කවුද?
මෙතුමා කිව්වා.
නෑ එතුමා විද්‍රෝහ කරන්නේ ඒක.
සෝරි ඒක. අපිට දැන් ඒක රජයේ ප්‍රකාශය විදියට කරන්න පුළුවන් නේ?
රජයේ ප්‍රකාශය විදියට බොහොම පැහැදිලිව political extremist.
Meanwhile, a group of ministers arrived at the president's house in Mirihana today. Meanwhile, the army commander and the defense secretary also arrived at the president's house today. The Mahasangha also visited the president.
පුළුවන් තරම්
Everyone must be patient and peaceful at all times. Everyone must try to maintain peace. This is a sad situation for all of us. All of us must act smart. This damage is not sustained by one individual, but by all Sri Lankans.
මේවයින් සිදුවෙන්නේ එක පුජ්‍යලයකට හෝ දෙන්නෙකුට නෙවෙයි මුළු රටටම සිදුවන හානියක්.
I condemn the selfish behavior of the government that neglected the people's problems, which heavily burdened them. The people are suffering and standing in long queues without food to purchase essential goods. We stand with the public who are suffering at the moment. However, bribery, obtaining commissions and corruption continue to take place in the country. We can see a group of political allies is profiting off this situation by selling national assets and resources. Today we can see a political structure that operates without any transparency, with a central bank that has been politicized. The rulers must be sensitive and act immediately to provide solutions to these issues. Labeling the people's struggles as efforts made by extremists will only worsen the situation. It will not provide any solution.
ඊට අවශ්‍ය විසඳුම් නොලැබෙන බව අපි අවධාරණය කරන්න කැමැතියි.
Meanwhile, the leader of the Janatha Vimukti Peramuna also spoke about the protest in Mirihana. Mothers carrying infants, average citizens who were on their way home after work, and many senior citizens attended this protest. There were many people at the site of the protest even until 1 and 2 in the morning. They were protesting against President Gotabaya Rajapaksa and calling for his resignation. Do you think that an average citizen will stand up like this for fun? No, it is clear that this government is acting without any regard for the lives of the people and the hardships that they face. Children are crying without milk powder. They are crying because they can't sleep. Wives are complaining that they have no gas to cook with in the kitchen. This situation is what forced the people to stage this protest. These are not the acts of extremists as the government defines them. The citizens of the country are starving. They have no power. Their children can't sleep and they have no way to feed them. When the finance minister is questioned on these matters by the media, he says, don't think about it too much. Some ministers come and say that there is a small dollar issue. The president is saying that he is not the one who created this problem. The inhumane and callous response of the government to these issues of the people is what led to this protest of the people. Therefore, the people have a right to do this. They must understand that the people are not slaves to the Rajapaksas.
Power cuts in certain areas will mean that many Newsfirst viewers could miss the primetime English bulletin on TV1 at 9 p.m. We have decided to repeat our news bulletin at 12 midnight and at 6:30 a.m. the following day on TV1 to help you stay updated. You can catch all our news bulletins online on the Newsfirst Facebook page and YouTube channel. Newsfirst, where the people come first.
Newsfirst, with the people.
A roundtable conference coinciding with the 5th BIMSTEC Leaders Summit took place yesterday in Colombo. India Foundation, a think tank based in New Delhi in partnership with Pathfinder Foundation in Colombo, had organized this event.
The event was attended by invitees of the 7 member states of BIMSTEC: Bangladesh, Bhutan, India, Myanmar, Nepal, Sri Lanka and Thailand.
Take the oil, gas and petroleum sector, very topical in Sri Lanka today as we deal with 13-hour power cuts, acute shortages of gas, diesel and so on. Now the reality is that India is the 3rd largest consumer of oil in the world market today. So surely it would make sense for Sri Lanka to access the world market through India rather than on our own. So now at last a viable arrangement has been worked out which is to the mutual advantage of both countries, and Sri Lanka is certainly a beneficiary. The arrangements with India and the degree of comfort and assurance that has resulted from those arrangements which are already in place clearly places Sri Lanka at a distinct advantage in the complex negotiations which lie ahead with the International Monetary Fund.
Our cooperation
The bilateral cooperation between India and Sri Lanka is a very important factor, not only for the prosperity and progress of the people of our two countries, but also for promoting regional cooperation within Bay of Bengal region. And that is where ferry services between India and Sri Lanka are important, not only for the people-to-people connect, but also for promoting trade between India and Sri Lanka. That will also provide a quicker and far more beneficial access to Sri Lankan products to the large Indian market, especially in the agricultural segment, because there the shelf life is particularly short.
The group of 11 affiliated parties met at the residence of former President Maithripala Sirisena.
The group of 11 affiliated parties met at the residence of former President Maithripala Sirisena. The group convened a media briefing after the meeting and called on the government to resign and for the appointment of an interim government. As the collective of 10 parties, we demand President Gotabaya Rajapaksa to sack his cabinet of ministers, discuss with the other parties in parliament, come to a consensus and form an interim government. Then we can bring the situation under control through the interim government, stabilize our country to a certain level and then call for a general election. The people who are in pain will only have hope if such measures are taken. Hold discussions with all parties. There may be differences in policies. No matter what, if we are to save this country from this threat, the people of this country must be directed properly. I am not speaking about a national government.
මේ රටේ පොදු ජනතාවට පිළිගත හැකි මෙහෙයවීමක් තිබෙන්න ඕනේ. මොකද ඒ කියන්නේ මම මේ කියන්නේ ජාතික ආණ්ඩුවක් කියන එක නෙවෙයි.
The current government that was appointed for a period of 5 years has become unpopular after just 1.5 years. This government has failed. The absence of hope is what is manifesting itself in violent protests at almost every junction. If the people of this country no longer has faith in the government, the people must be given an opportunity to appoint a government that they believe in. An interim government should be formed to bring the country to a level where we can hold an election. The burning issues of this country must be addressed first. We are suffering the consequences of the government's failure to act during the past 2 years. But the government is still not doing what it must.
නොකර සිටීමේ විපාක තමයි දැන් අපි භුක්ති විඳින්නේ. නමුත් ආණ්ඩුව තවමත් කළ යුතු දේ කරන්නේ නැහැ.
අපේ පෞලියේ මේ ඊයේ වෙච්ච සිදුවීම මේ ප්‍රෙසිඩන්ට් මීඩියාවෙන් හොවා දක්වනවා මේ අන්තවාදී ක්‍රියාවක් කියන කතාව.
හැබැයි ඉතින් එහෙම බලන්න කිව්වොත් දැන් ලංකාවේ ඉන්න ඔක්කොම
If that is the case, then all citizens of the country are extremists. Nobody gives much regard to what is said by the president's media division. I don't think that anyone in this country believes what they say. All of them have become jokes now. I don't think that the people will be too worried about the content of these statements.
තියෙන වචන ගැන එච්චර බැරෑරුම මේ රටේ මිනිස්සු ගනී.
ශ්‍රී ලංකාවේ දැන් පක්ෂයේ සභාපතිත්වය කොහොමද
මේ නිශ්චිත යෝජනාව ගැන අපි
We discussed about this proposal with the leader of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party and he agreed to it.
එතුමාගේ එකඟත්වයක් තිබෙනවා අපි මේ කියන නිශ්චිත යෝජනාව.
Now this just in. The General Secretary of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, Minister Dayasiri Jayasekara, today announced that members of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party are ready to resign from their ministerial portfolios. Now that news just in once again. General Secretary of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party, Minister Dayasiri Jayasekara, today announced that members of the Sri Lanka Freedom Party are ready to resign from their ministerial portfolios.
We spoke on many matters with the government and the president. We sent a proposal on 15 matters. We also presented 22 matters at the all-party conference, but we have still not received a proper response. At the working committee meeting of the party, we reached a decision that under these circumstances, the country should be taken forward under an interim government. Also, if this does not happen, our working committee decided that we should resign from our ministerial portfolios. We need to discuss further on if we will be joining the opposition or remaining independent. We will send the final letter in this regard to the president by tomorrow. All of our ministers are ready to resign. There is no issue there. We are holding discussions on what we should do after we resign from our ministerial portfolios.
මේ අබතිදුර අත්හැරීමත් එක්ක ශ්‍රී ලංකා නිදහස් පක්ෂය විදිහට අපි ඉදිරි ක්‍රියාමාර්ග ගන්නේ මොනවද? මොකක්ද අපි කළ යුත්තේ?
Now the gas issue in the country is still continuing.
The shortage of gas in the country is not over yet. Tensions were high at a gas outlet in Badulla town this morning. The people complained that gas was being issued to people who had not been standing in line. Many people across the country were seen standing in queues to purchase gas today as well. Government, the V-Force members took steps to distribute water bottles to the public who have been standing in queues all day to purchase fuel and gas. Not only was water bottles distributed, but Government, the V-Force members also ensured that all used water bottles were collected to ensure that the environment is not polluted.
The Supreme Court decided to take up for consideration on the 4th of this month the petitions filed by the Bar Association of Sri Lanka seeking orders from the Supreme Court to direct a response to immediately consult with all the relevant stakeholders and independent experts to formulate and implement policies to provide uninterrupted access and to provide concessions in relation to the prices of essential goods and services to the people, including LP gas, fuel, electricity, milk powder, medicines and food. And the petitions were called up before a bench comprising of Justices Gamini Amarasekara, Achala Vengappuli and Arjuna Obesekara.
Appearing for the petitioners, President's Counsel Udita Igalaheva said that the general public has been severely affected by the shortage of fuel, gas and other essential goods and services. He submitted to court that this has led to unrest among the citizens and mass protests across the country, which has even put at risk the rule of law in the country. The President's Counsel pointed out that the Bar Association of Sri Lanka filed the petition after taking into consideration all of these facts and requested court to hear the matter expeditiously. The applications by the Bar Association of Sri Lanka note that the failure to provide essential goods and services to the people of Sri Lanka without any shortage and at a reasonable price is a violation of the people's fundamental rights enshrined in the Constitution of Sri Lanka.
News First with the people.
And with that, we wrap up our news for tonight. Thank you for watching.